My birthday's in a few days, so I wanted to do something special. Today, we're talking about 10 albums from my life that I love or have made an impact on me. Welcome to the Music by Mraz podcast, the music podcast for mainstream music lovers. So like I said, it's my birthday soon, just in a couple days. I'm so excited. I love my birthday. I wanted to do something special, like I said in that little intro, and I thought the best thing to do that felt special to me, because that's honestly, this is my hobby, and that's what's most important, is that it's special to me. So I've decided to share 10 albums from throughout my life that have made an impact on me, hold special memories, things that some of them I just love, and I think that is the best way for you guys to know me a little better, and something special for me to talk about for my birthday. So here we go. My stomach just growled. Hopefully you didn't hear that. Yeah, these aren't... Okay. Before I talk about them, these aren't in any particular order. There's I'm not ranking them, but all of them will be reviewed on my Grooves page, which is a music reviewing app. You should go check out the episode that is associated with that, which is the previous episode, the Taylor Swift re-listen. So enjoy that. First up is Wishbone by Conan, and this is an album that just came out last year. It's his latest album, and it is one of my favorite albums I've ever listened to. I think it is such a spectacular album. He is so spectacular as an artist. He is growing so much through his discography. Even the last two albums have shown so much growth in his artistry and his writing, and I just love this album. I think it is one of the best albums from the last year, which is almost a year old, which is crazy to me. That's not real. That's not real at all. I just love Conan and everything about him. He's one of two artists. I bet you can't guess who the other artist is. But he's one of two that has two albums in this list from their discography. I just love him. That one's pretty cut and dry. I don't expect the ones where I'm just like, oh yeah, it's one of my favorites. I really love it. I've also talked about it a lot. I have 2 whole episodes on this album, one on the standard version and then one on the deluxe. So you should go check those out as well. But I have talked about this album so much, and I just love this album and Conan as an artist. The next album, some of you might be surprised. Maybe you won't. I've talked about this band a little bit on the podcast. I defend their honor every time they come up. And that's Imagine Dragons. I know, guys, I know they get a lot of flack, but come on, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as people say it is on the internet. I love Night Visions, which is their first studio album, and that is one of the first albums I can remember where I started to branch off on my own in terms of my music taste. Because, you grow up, and you're listening to what your parents and your family listen to. So I listened to lots of Ben Rector. I listened to lots of John Mayer, Dave Matthews Band, Dawes, Sarah Bareilles, Lady A. I'm trying to make a mental list. Taylor Swift too, because my family got me into Taylor Swift when I was a little kid, and then I stepped away from a bit when my family stepped back from listening to her music because they preferred her older stuff, which is not a problem. It just is the way life goes when you're a kid and you're listening to what your parents and your family like. But Night Visions is one of the first albums, and Imagine Dragons is one of the first bands that I remember becoming, branching out. Sorry, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Branching out from what my family listened to. This was one of the first things that I liked just because I liked it. I still really love it. I've been a lot more into Smoke and Mirrors recently, which is their second album. But Night Visions is one of the first ones that I was like, wow, I can, I have my own music taste. I'm branching out into something new. And I think that's a very special memory for anybody. I feel like anybody can remember the first... Is that thunder? Goodness, all the thunderstorms when I'm filming. I love it. But that's one of the first albums I remember just branching out. And I think everybody can remember their first album or artist that really made them branch out after they have been listening to what their family listens to. It's a beautiful experience. I hope everyone gets to remember that experience in their life when they finally like branch out to something they like. Then we've got Evermore by Taylor Swift. I said this last episode. I think this is her best album. This and Midnights are her best albums, but this is an album specifically that has become one of my favorites, and I've learned to love more and more as time went on. Like, I feel like I listened to it for the first time and I was like, oh yeah, this is a good album. Like, I'll listen to it again. And then over the last few years, because I came back to being a Swiftie when I was like my very first couple semesters of college is when I really came back to being a Swiftie, which is in the last few years. Like, it was like 5 years ago. So Midnights was releasing that year that I came back. But this album, as I've listened to it more and more over the last 5 years, has just something about it, man. Like, it's so well written. It is I very truly feel that is her best album. Like, it's so well written and it's just so beautiful, and something about it just brings out so much emotion in me. Even though I'm not in a, like, Tolerate It, I don't relate to Tolerate It at all in my life, but something about that writing just brings out the emotion, and I think it is just such a fantastic album. And it means a lot to me in the sense that it's something I return to, and it feels like home. It's very comforting. Like, if I'm pulling out a vinyl and I'm like, I kind of want to listen to Taylor Swift, most often I'm grabbing Evermore. And I think Evermore deserves more flowers, and I said this last episode, but it's become one of my favorite albums of all time, which is kind of weird to say, because I feel like it's so hard to pick a favorite album of all time, but I think Evermore is top 5 for me. It is such a fantastic album, and if you haven't listened to it, or if you didn't like it first listen, go back and re-listen to it. It's okay if you don't like it. That's fine. That's fine. It's not a problem to not like something, especially if you have given it a try multiple times. But I think the more you re-listen to this album, the more it feels like home. And I love it. That felt a little more emotional, didn't it? So yeah, that's Evermore. Then we've got The Golden Years by Joshua Bassett. I have loved Joshua Bassett's music since he started putting out music. I loved Anyone Else. I loved Common Sense right when it came out. I honestly had a little bit of a battle in my brain trying to pick between this and Sad Songs in a Hotel Room, which is an EP. It's not an album. But The Golden Years is his debut album. He also just had a song come out. It's pretty good, Clouds. That one was good. But The Golden Years is his debut album, and I just think it's so perfect. And he spent years trying to get this album right. So he was like, oh yeah, I'm writing an album like 4 years ago is when he said this. And then all of a sudden, here it is. Like, here we are in 2024 when it comes out. We've been waiting so long, and it's really just an immaculate album. He spent so much time honing his craft and making it just so beautifully perfect. I think it is one of the best albums, the best debut albums I have ever heard. And it might not be people's style. It's a lot of acoustic and synth mixed together in lots of different ways. It works really well. It's a very balanced blend of synth and acoustica, which is like my bread and butter when it comes to pop music. Like, give me both, because synth can do so much, but nothing is quite like a good acoustic instrument sound. Whether it's drums, guitar, piano, anything, any of those things, just give me the acoustic sounds mixed with the synth and you're like golden. Which is why I like The Golden Years by Joshua Bassett. I just think it's such a stunning album. It's one of my favorites. Very relatable in a lot of ways. I think songs like Look How Far You've Come and Mirror and Biting My Tongue are just so relatable, and I love them very dearly. I'm still mad at you, Joshua, for not giving me a vinyl for this album. If you should desire to, I would buy it immediately. So if you even just make like 5, I'd buy it. Please. I would love this album on vinyl. I think it would sound so beautiful on vinyl. Anyways, you can't get everything you want. That's all right. So the next album is another very nostalgic album for me. It's the first album that came out after I started college, which is so funny because it's also, I actually know the woman who put this out. She put it out, it was 2022 when it came out, which was my very first on-campus semester of college, because I did a fall semester online before I went to college, just to save up some more money. But alas, this is the first one that came out when I was at college. It's not available on streaming anymore, which breaks my heart. I am so sad. I need to get a CD player just so I can listen to my CD of this album, because it's gorgeous. It is so beautiful. I do think, I don't know if I even said the title of the album. It's called Silver. It's by Sammi, which is was her artist name for this album. She since split from her label and is now independently releasing some songs occasionally. My goodness, her music is so stunning. I wish this album could have been truer to what her style is, because I think the way her music sounds as an independent artist is very different from what this album sounds like. It's still gorgeous. Like, it's not a problem with the album at all, but I think her newer style is much truer to herself, and I love her music so much. She's such a beautiful artist, and she's probably never going to see this video, and that's fine, I don't care. But Sammi, if you see this video, your music is wonderful. You don't need to get caught up in the perfectionism, and you don't need to doubt that your music is beautiful, because it's beautiful. But I need to get a CD player so I can play the CD. This is like the most scatterbrained way to tell this. But her new music, her artist name now is dontknowher on Spotify. She has 2 songs out, Self-Medicate and Numb. Gorgeous. Phenomenal. This album, though, is so special to me because I did know her. She grew up in the area, and she went to a neighboring high school. I knew her a little bit. Our parents knew each other better than we did, but she's a wonderful human, and it really shines through in her music. And it's special to me because it's the first album that came out after I started college, and now I get to brag that I have a signed copy of this CD of an album that's not on streaming anymore. And it's a beautiful album. So, there you go. It's also pouring right now. I don't know if you can hear it through my microphone, but it is pouring outside. The next album that I wanted to talk about for my top 10 albums of my life is Reputation by Taylor Swift. This is a very loved album by Swifties. It wasn't loved when it came out. This is actually when my family stepped away from listening to her music because they didn't like the new style, and this is now one of my favorite Taylor Swift albums, which I think is so funny. It's just such an irony that the things that made us stop listening to her music, not necessarily made us, but just like drew us away because we didn't like the style as much, or the things that really drew me in when I came back to being a Swiftie. And I went through things in school where I could relate very much to a lot of Reputation, which I don't get into my personal life like that on the podcast, and I really never will, because that's not what kind of podcast this is. We're about the music, but it's something that I related to heavily at specific points in my life during college, and it's remained my favorite because of that, because I related so deeply in the moment that now it's a memory, and it turned this memory much better than it was when I talked about when it was happening to me. When it was happening, it hurt so bad, but now it's almost a fond memory because I had this album to get me through it. I had great friends to get me through it, and I just think music can do that, and that's why it's so important to me. That's why it's on this list, is because music really can just make you feel so much better about your memories, about your current situation, about everything. It can just make everything better, and I think that's what Reputation represents for me. And I just love the production on that album. I'm really glad she didn't do a Taylor's version for that album, because it would have fallen flat, and she knew that. And I said this last episode too in my Taylor Swift re-listen. It would have fallen flat, and I'm grateful she didn't, because it lives as this gorgeous piece of art that just stays forever and ever. Wow. I feel like I'm being like super poignant today. I feel like this is such a more emotion-filled episode than it usually is, because I tend to stick to the technical sides of things, because I do have a music degree. I don't know if I've said this recently enough for newer viewers to know this. I have a degree in music, and this is a lot of my thoughts come from my background in music theory and production, because I did study to become a music producer. I took all the classes that were available at my college, and I just decided that it ultimately wasn't for me, but it's provided me with so many skills to do what I do now with the podcast that I just love. Also much better at audio engineering for video editing, which is what those skills got me. I gotta speed this up a little bit because this is turning out to be a longer episode than I planned. Whoopsie. I'll still be mushy cushy, don't worry. I'm not gonna cut anything out of my opinions. We're actually almost done. There's only 4 more albums left. So the next album is No by Michael Jackson. That's not who that's by Jason Mraz. Jason Mraz has been a part of my life for a long, long time. That's one of the artists my parents loved to listen to when I was a kid. And this album was the tour that I got to go to my first concert for. So this album represents for me my very first concert. And it was so special because later on in my life, for his latest album, the Magical Mystical Rhythmical Radical Ride, or something, I think that's what it's called. There's a lot of words in there, and I have them mixed up sometimes. But that was my first concert with my husband, and that was his first concert too. So it was kind of a cool full circle moment where I got to have first concert moments, both without and with my husband, with Jason Mraz. So thank you, Mr. Mraz. That was very appreciated. You also should have done better in Dancing with the Stars. I love Xochitl Gomez, but I also love you, and you should have done better. Not that you didn't do good. I mean that in a, you should have gone further. Anyways. Or maybe you should have won. Did you get second place? I'm, directly addressing Jason Mraz right now. Anyways. Very first concert. What a beautiful album. I love... Oh, there's so many good songs on that album. Let's See What the Night Can Do, I think, is a very popular one for people. Gorgeous. More Than Friends featuring Meghan Trainor was my favorite right when it came out, and right before I went and listened to, went to this concert. He didn't play that one because he didn't bring Meghan Trainor to Boise, Idaho, but it was such a beautiful, beautiful concert. I love his music, and his newest album is also fantastic, and that's such a fun one. I have that one on vinyl because my husband got that one for me for my birthday last year. He got me that one and Reputation on vinyl for my birthday. So I have that one. I have Magical Mystical Rhythmical Radical Ride. I think that's what it's called. I think those are all the right words. I might be wrong. And that's okay. But it's very dear to me. And speaking of concert moments, another very first concert moment that I had was with Magic by Ben Rector. This wasn't obviously my first concert. It was my second concert, but it was my first Ben Rector concert, and I've been to 4 Ben Rector concerts now because I love his music so dearly. And Magic was the album he was touring the first time I got to see him live, and that album is so emotional because a lot of it is for his wife and his daughter, which is so special. He writes about his family all the time, and it's always such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think this album is one of the peak Ben Rector albums. It's just so fantastic. And then he stepped away from music for a little bit. He didn't step away from music, but he stepped away from putting out albums for just a little bit longer than you normally would as a professional musician, to get his love of writing back. And he came back stronger than ever with Joy of Music, which I only didn't pick because I wanted Magic on here. And honestly, if I was doing more than 10 albums, I would have put Joy of Music on here as well. But I love that album so much. Kids is one of my favorite. The versions he did where it was a live recording, and he reimagined 3 of his songs, also phenomenal. Just such a phenomenal era of his music, and such a fun, memory-filled part of his music for me. Then we've got Found Heaven by Conan Gray. This is the album that made me a Conan Gray fan. And I think in recent years, he has become my favorite artist, like, period. He is so good at what he does, and he does not get nearly enough recognition, especially for this era. A lot of people did not like this era because it was very different from what he had done before. It was much more retro synth pop than his normal sad boy acoustic stuff that he had been doing, and his not retro synth pop. But this is the album that made me a Conehead. Like, I love this album so much. It's gorgeous. It's wonderful. It is a retro pop dream. It is so good, and I just love it so, so much. It's just one of my favorite albums. His are just, like, they don't have memories, like, too much nostalgia with them yet because they are so recent, but they're just some of my favorites. And then the last album that I put on this list is kind of out of left field for these ones, but it's Reverie by Ben Platt. And I think this one is very similar to Night Visions in the fact that this is one of the albums that really defined where I branched out in music. So I love synth pop, and this was very heavily synth pop from him, and his voice is so gorgeous, and I loved Dear Evan Hansen in high school. That's my favorite musical. And his music has always just been so good. He changes it up every album, but I think Reverie really takes the cake for me because of the synth pop, and it's just so interesting. It's so different from what he was doing on his other two albums. Oh, it's so good. I just love it. And it feels a little out of left field for everything else, but it's those memories of branching out to find my own music taste, because this was heavily in my musical theater phase, which I still love musical theater, but not as, like, that's all I listened to for a really long time, was musical theater. And this is where I came back to just, like, listening to not musical theater, which is kind of crazy. Anyways, yeah. Lots of really great memories associated with all of these albums, but they're also fantastic. There's no but to it. All of these, like I said earlier, are going to be on my groups page, so you can hear, like, full-fledged, like, technical reviews of them, because I try to be a little more objective, you know, as objective as you can be with music, but I try to be a little more objective when I'm talking about music in a music review capacity. But I am excited to keep going with this season, and I'm excited to talk about, I think my next episode is talking about Olivia Rodrigo's entire discography and why I think that each album is just perfect. Not to spoil everything, but I'll see you guys next week, and it'll be really fun.